Well, we are well into March, and we are also well into shed season. Sheds have been dropping a lot lately. We've been finding more and more every time we do go out. Our trail cameras suggest that the majority of bucks have dropped already. There still are a few holding, but most have dropped. This morning we're out on a southern Indiana property. I got another guy with me. We're going to go shed hunting today, but we're also going to bring you along and show you some tips and techniques that we use to find more sheds and not waste as much time out in the woods, because those hours that we do get out are precious, especially before the critters start munching on them. So we're going to get out today. We're going to bring you along. Well, the first thing you should do before you go out shed hunting, especially if you have a large group of people with you, is look on the map. Identify the places that you want to hit first. Identify your first priorities and identify the direction of travel that you want to travel across your property. You don't want to go out and just put on a bunch of miles. Sure, miles equals piles, but you want to identify those spots where you really want to hit. Don't waste that precious hours that you do have, especially if you do have a large group like I mentioned before. So identify the place that you want to hit, identify the direction of travel, and then hit those spots. If you walk all scattered through your property, you might miss a good section of grass, you might miss a good section of a thicket that you thought maybe another person covered. But if you already identify your spots first, then you grid search those spots before you go out and start, scattering around on the property, you're likely to find more sheds.
It's March 4th here in south central Indiana. We're on the southwest facing slope. We found what looks like an old blowdown from 10 or 15 years ago where the red oaks and white oaks are starting to drop some acorns. It's pretty thick. We luckily found this one. Looks like he's probably been on the ground for about 2 years, but it's been a real nice deer this year and even better deer next year. We've got a lot of ground to cover down here. We've been finding a few decent sized deer, and hopefully we can find a few more today.
Well, it's midday. We've already found one shed, but we're on a south slope, and I wanted to stop here because this is where we found this shed. I guess it was about 3 days ago. It was a pretty heavy rainstorm. We just bit the bullet and it kept shed hunting even though we couldn't film. But we did find this shed right here. We're on a south slope, and we have a lot of beds right here, but it's a doe family bed. We can tell that because there's a lot of beds. There's smaller beds right next to pretty big sized beds. There's a lot of droppings in here, and it's a lower tier on this south slope. So when you find a bed like that, don't immediately assume that you're going to find some sheds. Where the buck's going to be is above the does or away, further back in the thicket, further away from human pressure, and further away from that social stress of those does. And we found these bedding areas, or these beds right here, and we actually moved up the cliff, and that's where we found this shed, up on a bed, tucked on right behind a log, and he was right there. So Justin's working through the timber right now. We're looking for the other side of this shed, but pretty good little 3-year-old. He's going to definitely be a deer that we're going to look out for next year. But again, if you find a bedding area is one of the top places to find sheds. But if you find a lot, try to work further back away from human pressure, further back away from these beds, but a thicker, a place that gives a lot more security to a mature buck where you're going to find the shed.